In this video, we're going to look at cookies and how we can use them in our systems. To get started, we'll want the City Manager Web Cookies.war file, which contains the code we'll be using in this lesson. So go ahead and import that, and once again, as you import, make sure you rename your project to City Manager Web so that all the redirects work as expected. So we'll have that loaded up, and that will give us a few new pages into our system. The first one's going to be an index for cookies. That's going to just be a login page that actually is going to have two forms. One's going to tell us that the user wanted to do something that goes to login, and we'll redirect to login with cookie info. The other one is actually going to give us the ability to actually see a post where we could actually then remove some cookies. So that way we can clear those out and start over, and also see how to do that. So login with cookie info. Let's go ahead and expand this. This page is simply going to be a post, and you can read this information, but basically we're going to learn better ways to do this in the future. But what we want to do right now is just go ahead and simulate if the user was saying, I want to store my user ID and password information so that next time I come back here, I don't have to retype all that. What you can do then is find out, first of all, what cookies exist. So what we're going to do here first when we hit this page is pull from the current cookies to see if the credentials are already stored, because the user may have already stored them at a previous time, and this will prove that our cookies are being stored as expected. So here we'll have a string for user ID and password, and we'll just pull from the cookies in the request by getting the cookies, and that will get us into an array. And that array will be able to be looped upon if it's not null for each cookie that exists. And then we're just going to check for the name of the cookie. If it matches one of our cookie names, we'll get that value, and then we'll have that value available. Now, since we're using a servlet, we're going to spit the information out just like before. What we're going to do here is actually print out that HTML page that allows the user to log in, and we'll populate those values for the user ID and password if we have them, otherwise they'll just be blank. When that posts, it will go to user login cookies, which will then do all of the authentication and session things that we've done before. So let's look at user login cookies. Now here what we're going to do is pull the parameters. If they gave us a user ID and password, we'll have that, so we can remember that information. And that's going to be important for storing our cookie. And so then we'll also ask if they actually wanted to remember, and if they do, that's when we'll actually save it into the cookies. And here you can see our same simulation for our auth level, our session stuff. And this is the important part here. If we're going to remember it, we need to create a new cookie for each value we want to store. So here we'll set our cookie life to 7 days, which is 3,600 seconds times 24 hours times 7 days. And then we'll have that user ID cookie be set to the user ID value for credentials_UID. We'll set the max age to cookie life. That will give us the ability to store that cookie for those exact 7 days that we're saying that we want to save it. After that, they'd have to recreate it. And we'll also add that cookie to the response. Very important. The password cookie then is the same thing. Credentials password with the max age of 7 days, and password cookie gets stored into the response. Now, once we have our information, we either redirect back if they're not logged in, which they will be, of course, or we redirect to our destination page, which we've used before. So nothing new there, but that will allow us to see this in action. Our remove cookies really quickly. To remove a cookie, all we want to do is just loop on the cookie array, find the cookies we want to remove, set their max age to 0 to expire it, and then make sure to response.add that cookie back into the response so that the cookie gets overwritten. In some older systems, you may need to restart the browser. We should be able to do it without in this system. We'll just print out then that the cookies have been expired. So let's go ahead and run this on the index cookies page. And this will be kind of our driver. And while we're doing this, I wanted to show you one other thing. So we're seeing a lot of things now where we're posting. We don't have a get method anymore. What do you think would happen if we actually printed in here that we just want to go ahead and remove cookies? We don't have a get method, remember. So what you might see is HTTP method get is not supported by this URL. And that's exactly what we hope for, because we don't have a get. So it basically says you can't just get here. You have to go through our system through the actual post that we want. So let's go back to index cookies.html. So let's go ahead and log in the first time. Now we don't have anything stored in our cookies, and we can actually pull up Fiddler and run your Fiddler, and you can watch what's going on. You can see behind the scenes, there's our session ID, but there's no cookies in place. You can watch the raw too and see if there's cookies in place, but you can actually just click on cookies here, and that will show you, and it'll also tell you if a response has set cookies. So that's important. You can debug that way. So let's go ahead and make our username be infinite skills. Now we know for a fact that this is not hard-coded anywhere in our code, so this will verify that our information is working as expected. Now we'll password just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the first time, let's not remember, just so we can prove that we're not actually remembering it. There's our infinite skills. Again, if we go back and look at our information that's being posted, we don't see any cookies being set. We don't see the cookies being controlled, so that's good. So let's go back to index cookies.html. Let's go ahead and log in one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is going to be our password. We're going to go ahead and select Remember Me this time and log in. Once again, we're logged in. Let's look at our fiddler here, and we can see that when we started hitting this, we actually set cookies for credential UID equals infinite skills. It expires on a certain date. Set cookie credentials password also set. Now you can see already security breach because we're plain text storing a password. So we probably want to figure out a better way to do that in the long run. It's also there included in your response here for the page that we hit with our cookies, our JSession ID. Our cookies are also showing credentials, infinite skills, and credentials password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's go back to our index page, indexcookies.html. And once again, let's log in. And this time we'll see our information is automatically populated for us. And the reason that is because, of course, it pulled from the cookie. The cookie was there. It populated the information. And we don't even need to check remember me this time because we're not removing, they don't remember it. And you could also mess around with storing the remember me toggle into a cookie as well if you wanted to practice on your own and then recheck that. It's a little bit more difficult than just populating a text field, but it's something that you could practice with. Just have that be checked if they have a cookie in place already. And go ahead and log in. And once again, we're already going to log in because our information is good. So the final thing we want to take a look at then is just removing our cookies to make sure that that works. So we'll go back to indexcookies.html. And here, once again, we'll remove our cookies and it says cookies expired. So now we should be able to see that cookies were removed from our session here. There we have our cookies, but you can see that they expire in January of 1970. So clearly these cookies are no longer valid and will not work. They're actually still there, but even if they're pulled, we're not going to respect them as valid values, which will do the same thing as removing them. So when we go back here and try to log in one more time, so we'll go back to indexcookies.html. Once again, when we hit login now, we will not have any information pre-populated for us because our cookies are essentially removed.